And there we go. Alrighty. Thanks for the heads up there, Pyro. Yeah, I was mentioning, and obviously you can hear, I made some changes to the stream settings on OBS, so I was hoping everything would be jiving together well, but unfortunately, there were some hiccups. What was I mentioning? What was I mentioning while I was muted? Today we'll be painting a Space Wolf, working out a test scheme of sorts. I'm trying to work out a workflow for batch painting. Really, some battle standard, which is a term I like to use to describe a little bit better than GW's battle ready. For your semi-generic Space Wolf. So I have a Blood Wolf here that will serve as the experiment. Misfit, how's it going? Yeah, so what was I saying? I'll be trying out this old contrast I have for Space Wolf's Gray. And I'll be basically doing some sponging, sort of a slap chop-ish workflow. I'm going to try that out and see if it lands somewhere like how I'm expecting. I guess the first step is to prime the model. So I'm gonna put down my splatter catcher, and I'll just brush prime on some Vallejo surface primer. Good old reliable. Good old reliable. Hope everyone else has some interesting projects on their hobby desks. Let us share in the hobby camaraderie here. Like I was saying, if your buds are doing their own editions, you made a 9.5 back in the day based on that Discord channel, right? I like a soft. I've made facts. I've made faction rule packs in the 4. I've dabbled with making full overhauls to game systems. The struggle is having my local playgroup community is very much steeped in the GW rules writing paradigm. They would like to play what is official, what people are playing in the world tournament, that kind of... They have that sort of lens. And, I can appreciate that for what it is. So I haven't gone full on with an edition. I am dabbling with a different way to play with your miniatures, but I wouldn't say it's an edition, like the Outer Circle is doing with a Circle edition of Horus Heresy, where you're covering every faction, every unit available for play. It's intense, but I think it's important. I think there needs to be other options than standard. Gotta have something to compete, even if it's not like monetarily. Just something to force the conversation, right, on how rules ought to be. You get that a little bit with Grimdark Futures. But there are some gaps. Not every unit is accounted for. If you like special characters, you kind of have to count as. At least as far as I'm aware. I'll be fully transparent with you guys. I am not 100% up to date on the scope of Grimdark Futures. Like one-page rules of Grimdark Futures. There might be supplements and stuff I am not aware of. Okay, we're just gonna... Did I get enough primer out of the bottle? Probably not. Probably not. I'll be doing another messy application of a gray over this, and then I'll start sponging on some blues. And then we'll see if that's too saturated for the contrast as a base color. It might be. It's a bit of an experiment today. The project of making dinner. Look, that's a very important one. That's not to be neglected, for sure. And it's delicious. Usually. I mean, if you're hungry enough, everything's delicious. Yeah, I was a bit late starting today as well because I had to clean out the old wet palette. It was looking like it was battered, I'll tell you. A bit like a No Man's Land from World War One, but with many colors. It was just decrepit. You know, I have to say with these Blood Claws, like, as lamenting of the releases I was of the Space Wolves getting all these specialist kits, it is nice. It is a nice batch of miniatures here. You do have some very nice variety in character in the different varieties of armor mark, and especially in the helmets. I mean, of course, I went unhelmeted because I think that's how Space Wolves ought to be. Give them more of that barbarian Viking aesthetic. They just look more like wild warriors, right? Like, these aren't your average Space Marines. They all don't wear helmets. That's kind of crazy. SWAT Drama says, I am dying, ads are cancer. I swear that's all set to manual, and I have not been pushing that button. Let me see here. Let me see what is going on. Yeah, it's on manual. I don't know. Maybe YouTube is forcing ads in. Here, I can change it to scheduled. I'll change it back to manual, and then I'll save. Maybe that'll do the trick. Auramite, how's it going? SWAT Drama says, I keep buffering. Does that mean... Well, are there others in chat that are also buffering? Let me sort this out. I did change some stream settings. I thought it might be kind of cool to have a cool B-roll playing in that top corner. That's usually just the playlist I'm listening to. So that's a bit more interesting, I thought. So I'd like to sort that out. Misfit says, I'm starting work on Tau again. Very cool. I have a fondness for Tau. I think the memes, I think they take more shit than they deserve because of the memes. Have you seen the old mini wargaming video of them using 10th edition Tyranid and Guard models in 5th edition? Also, if wet palette has a slimy texture, the paper... If the wet palette has a slimy texture on the paper, is it worth it to throw? Yeah, probably. That's probably a good indicator. Whether or not... Like, sometimes the surface of the sponge can also get kind of slimy. And that's a good benchmark to use, I think. Good rule of thumb. I have seen Mini Wargaming using modern models with 5th edition. I was actually sort of scheduled to go down and do one of those with my Tyranids. But it didn't come together, unfortunately, due to scheduling. But there might be something on the horizon that I may or not be trying to organize with them. We'll see. Auramite says, Horus Heresy 3.0 has really disappointed me, hence I'm keeping the 2.0 books. Good to know. Yeah, that was the assumption that I got, or not, that was my understanding I got through Maka. He was very, very much cold on Horus Heresy 3.0, and his rationale seemed totally justifiable. So it is a little, well, I'm happy to hear that it's kind of, he's not alone in that point of view. Right, so this coverage of this primer is not 100%, but it's probably sufficient. Sufficient enough for a test model. This isn't a named character or HQ. Pyra says, no, that sounds sad. I hope you could. I think it would be a tipping point for fellow Canadians to do the same. .0 rules feel more uninspired than 10th edition 40k. Oh, that's super sad, Auramite. Jeez. And we know how dry 10th is compared to past editions. Yep, exactly. That's a bummer. Yeah, I really feel, and I hate to say it because, like, we say it on Grimdark Therapy often, that we want 40k to be, or Warhammer in general, to be as hype and awesome as it can be. So we can really champion the hobby, or champion what we're into. That's more accurate to say. But it really feels to me like GW is slowly but surely gutting the creativity from the hobby. And it feels more and more that all the game systems they make, it's about playing their armies, not your armies, if that makes sense. Now, I haven't put this into a script, this is a little off the cuff, but this is kind of a position of sorts that I think I'm slowly settling into. And I'm pretty sure it's undeniable. Like, I'm pretty confident in that. Like, you see it a lot with the newer, like, Emperor's Children and World Eaters especially. Like, you're not playing your World Eaters army. Like, you don't have that big sandbox to pick and choose and make your World Eaters. You're kind of just forced to play GW's World Eaters. And that really the contrast in that can really be seen in Maka's, previous 2 videos where he's been looking at older codexes. Right? He did one on the Chaos 4.0, or maybe 3.5 edition codex. And in there you can really see the breadth of space you have to make choices with him. And it's like, man, that's what the hobby should be about. I think that's what makes the effort of realizing an army worth it. Without all that choice and expression, I don't think it's worth, like, all the effort. Well, that's where I'm at anyways. It's kind of a bummer train of thought, but apologies. A little bit grim in the dark here. Auramite says, I was discussing with some friends of mine that have been in the hobby as long as me, 30 years. They're making the rules and armies very regimented, very predictable. Indeed. You're seeing a lot of every army having the same sort of tool. Every army must have its scouting unit. Every army must have its lone operative unit. Like if all the armies in 40k are the same, or offer the same tools, it begins to get a bit boring, right? If every army has the same detachment that gives you uppy downy, you're like, okay, well, I guess you're using the Tyranids uppy downy detachment. Okay, that's interesting because I'm using the Space Marines uppy downy detachment. Like it's, I don't know if you, I am at a loss for words on that. It feels like you're gutting the interesting element of these different factions. I said I was only going to paint one of these guys, but I have excess primer on the palette now, and I don't want to waste it. And I guess that primer has to dry fully, so maybe it's all part of the plan. Yeah, I've been looking a lot at, well, in the interest of sharing, like, playing with your miniatures using different rules, and that post I made on the channel, or that poll, well, it was a post, which was a poll, on my channel. I've been looking a lot at first edition Kill Team, because similar to what I was mentioning earlier, first edition Kill Team gave you a wide sandbox to make choices in and express your kill team. And it might not have been the most balanced system, but you could refine it to make it a bit more balanced, of course, right? You can always do that. But instead, over the course of the next 2 editions of Kill Team, GW has moved to a system where you play their kill teams. You don't make your own kill team, right? This is what I'm talking about. So yeah, I've been looking at not necessarily doing an edition overhaul project like North and Maka, but I am interested in maybe doing something in the scope of Kill Team and just player expression. Still, you know, incorporate all the factions, but give... I just want a game system where my dudes feel like my dudes, that I can have a wide... Like, you're playing Space Marines, you have a wide sandbox to play within, many choices to make, and your kill team can become an expression of you as a player versus another player playing Space Marines who's going to have a very different result based on the choices they've made. And you know what? It's also cool. If you want to play with GW's armies, right? You want to play Raven Guard, you want to play Ultramarines, having the wide sandbox, to me, seems like, well, now you have the freedom to make choices that are more or less thematic for those factions, right? Like, if I'm playing Kill Team 3.0 and I want to run my Firekeepers, I'm basically just playing Space Marines. Generic Space Marines. I don't have any choice in making my Salamanders kill team feel any different. So that's a project I'm dabbling with. We'll see if it becomes something I feel strong enough about to share on the channel. Almost done using up that primer, guys. This is the last Bloodclaw, I swear. I swear, Scout's honor. You can see, look how thin the primer's getting. Let me catch up with chat. Would have loved how Neurogaunts used as special Hormagaunts in 5th edition. Oh, dude, Pyro. Neurogaunts are probably like the worst. The most creatively wasted unit in the Tyranids Codex. That unit should be so interesting. A synaptic, a swarm that can spread synapse and serves as reactive bodyguard units. Like, I would love for them to, like, you know what would be interesting? If your Neurotyrant could be used to make its psychic attacks from the Neurogaunts. Because if that's the case, then you might actually have them be bodyguards. Because now you're shooting units you may not be able to see otherwise. Right? You might be putting things into synapse range that you wouldn't otherwise be able to with the Neurogaunt, or with the Neurotyrant leading Zoanthropes, for example. That should be like the ultimate field support unit, basically, for Tyranids. Right? Like Synapse, like you guys, I'm assuming, you guys have probably seen my Tyranids Synapse critique video for 10th edition. Like, if we assume Synapse should be everything for the Tyranids, then it follows that Neurogaunts would be like the most clutch utility piece ever. Okay, so I think for the base gray, I'm going to start pretty dark. I'm going to use this dark blue-gray from Vallejo. And from there, I'm going to go pretty heavy into the blue. Maybe I'll use up some of this Army Painter. Or no, I have a Vallejo here. I have two options. I have to wonder, is this brighter or the same? Brighter or the same? It looks a bit brighter. Okay, we're going to sponge this on. And then I'm going to do probably a light gray sponge over top of this base coat. Just kind of going for a Zenithal style effect. And then maybe a white dry brush. And then we'll try the contrast over that. That'll be the experiment for today. I'm going to leave those out so I don't forget. Ormite says 10th has been figured out. Yes, but they are about to release 11th. That they are, well, next summer anyways. If we assume the prophecy is true, the 3-year cycle for edition prophecy. And it seems to be that way. 500 Worlds is a campaign following the release of all the codexes coming out, just like Arcs of Omen, just like Psychic Awakening. Yeah, it's like poetry. That's a reference, FYI. Maybe I'll use a broader brush for this, we'll see. Maybe that'll speed things along here. This is a nice medium gray color. I really like Vallejo's German gray, just a peak color. But German gray is a bit darker than I would like. The Space Wolves have a fairly bright armor color. Wow, this is like a way better brush to use. Just getting an all-over application. Okay, we'll let that dry and see if there's any missed spots, but I think it looks pretty good. Just want to make sure it's not pooling. You never want your paints to pool, guys. That's a pro tip for you. The lighting is kind of bad. I don't know. I also had to update my camera software. Sometimes I don't like to. Sometimes I prefer to just ignore updates, just because settings seem to get reset. It's annoying. Okay, let's catch up with chat. List building first, yes. Core rules, I prefer second. If a tyrant used the body of the Gaunt to shoot its psychic power, the Gaunt just explodes. That would be funny. I don't hate that. Its body can only contain so much psychic energy, right? One thing I like about 10th is that it brought us the return of the Ultramarines, a distinctive chapter. Oh, yes, Ormite. Excellent comment. Excellent chat. That's beautiful. Yeah, the one thing that no other edition has done before. Focus on the Ultramarines. Of course! I do believe that, 2025 being the year of chaos is sort of a misnomer. I don't think... I could be wrong, But I think that might have been something that people inferred. If you guys know that as like to be fact, GW did claim it, then please point that out. But I believe this is something people wrongly assumed. Either way, the Space Marine optics are so bad this year. It's like the disparity is painful. I keep seeing rumors on social media about Perturabo coming for 11th and all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, we'll see. I'll be happy to be surprised in this regard, kind of like I was surprised with all the Phoenix Lords returning at the same time. Barring Karandris and, damn, what's his name? Irilith. It was a year of chaos for AOS. Probably. Yeah, I think that's an agreeable statement. I did like those putrid blight guys. Many of those models were pretty cool. I think if you're a Nurgle guy, you'd be pretty happy. Like, oh wow, look, something just for me. I had a sponge somewhere. I have to find it now. There we go. Nelson Cruz, how's it going? What are we up to tonight? Testing out a Space Wolves workflow. That's what I'm up to. Everybody in chat, lend me your energy. And share with Nelson what you're working on. Oh no, my tweezers. I moved them. No. Yeah, this is what happens when you use your hobby tools for everyday stuff and you don't put them back. Dang it. Now, how is one supposed to sponge? I guess I could just hand bomb it. You know, if I had to use the washroom, I would excuse myself and kill two birds with one stone, but my bladder is very resilient today. So I guess we'll just, hand bomb this guy. Get a bit messy. Is the gray applied evenly? It looks about right. Still a bit damp. But I don't hate working wet. Pyro says, even then, it was the Year of Chaos 2024 with the release of Skaven. That was it, if I recall. It was just a marketing tool. Sad, but probably true. Sad, but probably true, yeah. You know, I just want one named character for each first Founding Legion. I think without that, the optics just look so embarrassing. Like, you're a newbie looking at the hobby, and you're like, oh, Space Marine's so cool. You got all this, like, lore from the Heresy everyone's talking about. It's so complex, so vast, it's so epic. And then you look at the scape of things in 40k, and you're like, what is up with this disproportionate support? And it's like, yeah, okay, Loyalists are the poster boys, Primaris get unit upon unit upon unit, but man, the lack of named character really hurts the spirit of, like, those factions. It's like something, it's kind of like intangible. Like a reverence. Like one is clearly less important by the fact they don't have any named characters. No mythic heroes. Like a named character is supposed to be like this epic, singular individual in this galaxy. And the Chaos Space Marines are supposed to be veterans of the Longmore. Like, it would stand to reason they are a much bigger deal than the first founding chapters because they were never broken apart. And now you have this awkward state of affairs. The Mike Brooks Alpha Legion leader is coming in plastic. Yeah, it seems. Yeah, I think that's. It seems to be looking that way for sure, Pyro. You're not wrong. We had that rumor engine from way back with the Alfarius looking spear, the Pale Spear looking spear, and after I saw that book cover, I'm like, oh, okay, so you are having a named character. Now the question is, will it be a proper named character for the, non-legend side of things, or will it be a Black Library special character that goes to Legends afterwards? Like, some of them tend to. Hopefully it's the former. And hopefully it's not just the Alpha Legion. And I'd hope he has the Alpha Legion keyword, so you just can't mix them and match them everywhere. Okay. We're just gonna sponge this, what paint is this? Army Painter, dark blue, I think. So he's looking very Ultramarines. But I'm gonna do another sponge following this with a white. I'll probably mix some white into this. I'm trying to finish off my white scar. It's a wretched paint. So I'll probably mix a heap of that into what I have on the palette. And, mixing that white should tone things down considerably, tone down that saturation, because he is very blue. Yeah, you know what? I think I need the sponge, or I need the tweezers. I need more precision. I need a precision tool, guys. The Monogod legions being separate armies is good, but these armies need a lot more models. World Leaders and Emperor's Children especially. Yes, they absolutely do. They absolutely do. Like, you can't play with them. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Obviously, you can play with them. I'm getting ahead of myself. Lately, with my local play group, I've been playing with Force Org and adapting 10th edition lists to be played with Force Org because I despise the no tax on cheese state of affairs. And Force Org forces you to make some choices, some strategic trade-offs for taking those crunchier units. But God, is it hard to make the Emperor's Children and World Eaters work in Force Org. They've just been so gutted of options. That sandbox that Chaos Space Marines would play within, especially, like, you see it in 8th and 9th edition, but especially when you look at the 3.5 codex that Maka previewed on his channel recently, you're like, man, like, you're not playing your Emperor's Children, you're playing GW's Emperor's Children, because you have no choices. Anyways, guys, I'll BRB. Unfortunately, I hate to do it, but I need the tweezers. It's imperative. It's a priority mission. I'm not going to hit that add button because I feel weird about that. But what I will do is do this. Be right back. Alrighty. I've returned with spoils. Many spoils. The tweezers. The all-important tweezers. Pyro says, hit the ad button. Get money. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, you know what? If you're going on a break, it probably makes the most sense to do that. You know, bathroom run. You guys aren't missing anything that way. The stream isn't ruined. Right, so now by using the tweezers, I can get a more precise sponge. That is the idea. See, now I can get in there. That's better. Yeah, I've been playing with Force Org with a couple guys in my local play group, and for the most part, units adapt fairly well to the soft framework. Not units, factions. Played with Eldar, Votann, Tyranids, Space Marines, and Tau? No, not Tau. But yeah, like, look, 10th edition isn't that dissimilar from 9th, and so you can, for the most part, adapt the Force Org easily enough. But the problem is Emperor's Children and World Eaters. They have no choice. Like, Force Org does not feel good if you don't have choice. When you have choice, it's very interesting. You're like, oh, well, all these tactical decisions I can make. Okay, I'm going to mix in some White Scar next. This cursed paint. If you open it up, like that, it might as well be cottage cheese in there. Is anything new happening on the Warhammer community these days? Or, I guess, this week. Featured news. Do your Christmas shopping, everybody. Featured news. You know, it's a bit late, but the thought occurred to me that I probably should have clipped. I probably should have clipped out of Grimdark Therapy the section where we spoke about the Black Library, the Horse Heresy condensed change GW made, right? Make a very clickbaity, not clickbaity, but a very engaging thumbnail and title around GW admitting their own series is kind of worth skipping. I think the window for such a video is kind of past, because the reveals were like a week plus ago, but okay. Is this too aggressive? We'll see. I'm just going to try and come at this from the top. That's the goal. We'll see. We'll see if I stay true. I need to get some more paint. Spongin paint is honestly, like, look, it's obviously not as accurate as an airbrush, okay? But I find it to be a pretty good alternative if you're a trad brush guy or gal. You know, just as a way to quickly apply soft transitions. And you can go back and forth, like on your palette, just like with normal paints. Just mix in, you know, like that. Like on the armor plate there. Mix in, create some blends, go back and forth. I mean, and you can make your sponge as sharp or as precise as you like. And start building some transitions. It's pretty cool. The airbrush is smoother and more accurate, well, depending on your price point of airbrush, but it's such a hassle sometimes, busting out the airbrush and dealing with emptying out the reservoir and mixing in your paints. I missed some messages. I was too focused on painting. Sorry about that, guys. Auromite says, at what the 40k, your Pedro Cantor was excellent, by the way. I'll be holding the inevitable GW models up against yours when it eventually drops. Oh, thank you for that, Auromite. Yeah, I was really happy with how Pedro turned out. I sort of was planning on doing a smallish Crimson Fist force, like 1500 points, with those Horus Heresy Marines I have from that second edition starter set. But I had to pause that. Had to pause that project. That's the project that keeps getting paused. Unfortunately. There's something about that Firstborn aesthetic and paradigm that's so Crimson Fist. It's thematically, there's a thematic harmony with the Firstborn and Crimson Fists. It's just classic 40k vibes. There are units from the core Chaos Space Marine book that World Eaters and Emperor's Children can and absolutely should have access to. 100% Auromite. Yeah, you know, units, all the vehicles, all the Legion pattern vehicles, I think should be available to all Legions. Right? Your Vindicators, Predators, Rhinos, all that stuff. Dreadnoughts. I mean, Emperor's Children not having cultists? Like I'm facepalming here? Like, it's so absurd that they don't have cultists. Like, why don't they have cultists? Because GW does not want to sell that product for that model range. Like, maybe their production capacity is too thin. They can only support it for Chaos Space Marines, so they don't want to incentivize people buying other models. Is it because they want to sell special cultists just for Emperor's Children? Such a waste. Like, man, I get wanting to give the God-marked Legions special units. They're more deserving of it, in my opinion, than the special Snowflake chapters, because they should be more different than your standard Chaos Space Marines. But you can use a lot of the existing models and they'd be perfectly thematic. I don't see why you need to have zonked out cultists just for Emperor's Children. I'm sure that's why they don't have them. Okay, I'm going to shake this contrast. Look at that. With all my might. With all my might, I have mostly mixed it together. Opinion on the new Space Wolves Scouts for Kill Team. I guess the short and dirty of it is nice models as per usual with Games Workshop most of the time. But I think it's really stupid that we have another scouting unit for Space Marines. Like, if you're a Space Wolves player, you're gonna have like 5 scouting units probably. You'll have normal scouts. I'm assuming Space Wolves have normal scouts as an option. I could be wrong. You guys let me know. But you're gonna have all your Primaris stuff, your Incursors, your Infiltrators, your Reavers, which are pretty thematic for Space Wolves, honestly. Like, if I was a Space Wolves guy, I'd be like big into Reavers, despite how crap they may be at the time. And now you have these extra special Wolf Scouts. It's like, I just don't... Like, I get that Kill Team wants to be its own game system, and so you must flex all the product, all the faction or sub-factions that are extra special in Kill Team separately. But did they really need that? Like, you know what I mean? It feels like bloat. It feels like unit bloat, which is already a big problem for Space Marines. So that's... I don't like it... I guess the TLDR is, I like the models, I don't like it from a game... From a game mechanics or range of options point of view, but I do like how they look. Misfit says, I really wish GW would just stop giving Genestealer cults more characters. We could do with some heavier units. I agree, Misfit. However, GW has a deep love for releasing a single character with your codex, so it feels as though you are getting something when your codex comes out. And more often than not, that's what they do, and that's what units will get. Like, I'm willing to bet that's what all those characters we just saw in the preview are for those other books. The Twin Tau, the Tyranid Prime. Jeez, don't get me started on the Tyranid Prime. But that named character for Votann, the Orc Sling, the Orc Berserk Slayer. I think those are all just going to be tied to one of these 500 Worlds books. Because there's probably going to be a couple. Though I can't see them making a book featuring a Tyranid Prime. That's weird. It's not even it's not a named character in the way the Twin Tau characters are, or that Orc Slayer. Okay, so I'm just gonna get this old contrast, and he's just gonna be brave, hold our breath, and apply it. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. And if it's terrible, we'll just have to dry brush it away. Dry brush everything. Dry brush will solve all our problems. The dry brush will save us. We can go much heavier. I was a bit scared. Yeah, we'll have to dry brush. This is either old or... I don't want to blame GW for the state this is being applied in. I may have used this as a concoction at some point in the past. I may have mixed this with various substances. No one would be able to say what's in here now. It could be matte medium, it could be Lamian medium, it could be contrast, who knows? It's a mystery pot of contrast here. But I think it's more or less how a contrast would look. And I'm sure, I'm not sure. It's pretty much common knowledge, I would say, that Generation 2 contrast is far superior than Generation 1. That went on a bit thick. we're gonna have to dry brush the shit out of this guy. He is dark. We'll try and address any pooling we may have that's undesirable, but this is a big ol' experiment, everybody. Look, sometimes you have to break some eggs to make an omelet, and sometimes you get a whole bunch of eggshells in your omelet, and that's just how it goes. Misfit says, I like the Votann and Tau characters. Yeah, I like the Tau characters a lot. I think that there's an interesting design space there we don't often see with named characters. Like a named character unit of 2 is kind of compelling. Maybe they'll have rules to split apart and be very cool guys. Or I guess one's a guy, one's a girl, like cool brother-sister tag team. Split up and, tackle our separate problems midway through the battle. I would love that. I just love when units split into smaller units, but GW just does not like that design space at all. The Votann character, it's good, but it's like what you were saying about Genestealer cults, Misfit. It seems to me like Votann have a disproportionate amount of not only just characters, but named characters at this point. And it hurts with them a bit more than Genestealer cults, I'd suggest, because their range is much smaller. I like the new Wolf Scouts. All of them are armed with plasmas, but some of these units need to replace the existing options. Tyranids would need to be very small parts in a book. Yeah, the Tyranids would probably be the heel of a book, the same way the Necrons are a heel of a book, right? It might be Tau versus Tyranids, like we have in this book 1 Titus, and then there's 2 characters releasing along with it. Actually, I could see that exact thing happening. That's probably, yeah. The Tyranids will be the heel of the book, and will be like generic, stupid Tyranid Prime with single lash whip only. And he might have just the most busted rules ever, because par for the course for GW. You gotta push that new, right? Or maybe he won't, because a lot of Tyranids players have their old primes still. Yeah, this is gonna take a minute to dry. I think, paint-wise, what will I be dry brushing him with? We're gonna have to mix something, I think. We're gonna have to probably mix more of the base color. Yeah, this is what I used for the armor. Heavy blue from Game Color with White Scar. So I'll probably mix more of that in and dry brush. Give it a small dry brush. That should be able to get into most areas. I do love the posing and the armor aesthetic of the Blood Claws. So cool, so good. Pyro says, can't fret over every egg. Yeah, it's a good protocol. I've been calling the Votann one not Gotrek. That's good. I like that a lot. I will be dropping that one to the buds. That's funny. Oh, looks like my background music finished. What else do I got here? Okay. I could maybe accept a GSC character if they did a named one, or at least an epic hero centerpiece model. The Patriarch used to be that, but they took away the epic hero keyword. Oh, that sucks. You should only have one Patriarch, and he should be like the the biggest deal. In the same way, yeah, there's like a narrative break at a certain tier of character or single model, and it's around the Demon Prince and Patriarch. You could probably put the Hive Tyrant in there as well, but they should be like. And you know what? I feel the same way about Redemptor, or not Redemptor. I feel the same way about Dreadnoughts. Period. They should be such a big deal, and they should be such potent, game-changing units. Like the way we feel about Primarchs is really how I think that tier of units should be. And then Primarchs should only be played at like 3,000 point games. And they should be so busted that they shouldn't even be for matched play, I think. It should be like we're having a narrative face-off here. I'm bringing Guilliman. Get ready, right? That's the way I wish the rules were written. And we don't have that because of like matched play, tournament circuit, T-sports. Ugh, I cringe. But yeah, I think because of that audience that must be served, we don't have that kind of breakpoint. Like a Dreadnought should be such a big deal. Just like a Hive Tyrant should be like, oh my god, you have a Hive Tyrant? What am I going to do? Right? It should be like this major problem that you have to contend with. Like it shouldn't be like a simple unit that's just, oh, it's just a Hive Tyrant, no big deal. Yeah, in fact, I have two. Just like with Demon Princes. Like, I really like in Age of Sigmar, you can, like, evolve into it. You can transcend in the battle. Your Chaos Lord becomes a Demon Prince. It's like, Age of Sigmar still has... It's still very gamified, and it's actually a stronger game design, in my opinion, than 40k. But it has a bit more heart in that regard. GW, give me plastic, Death Core of Krieg Colonel, and my wallet is yours. Hey, you know, if the Guard get a new codex in 11th edition, and they need a single character to release with that codex, you just might get that. Necron's got a really good showing in the Silent King novel. You don't often read about fleets led by Guilliman himself getting defeated. Yeah, I have yet to read the Silent King novel, like the Dawn of Fire one, if that's what you're referencing there, or I've read most of the Dawn of Fire series, but I think I'm 2 books behind. I'll get to it eventually, but yeah, it's just procrastinating, I suppose. Pyro says, well, gotta go. Good luck on the painting? Question mark. Ah, thanks. Yes, I will be continuing the painting. Once this dries. Once it fully dries. So just kind of chilling for now. But you have a good evening. Thanks for stopping by, Pyro. Have a good night. Right now, the Patriarch, Primus, Male Magus, and Familiars are locked to the same sprue. They could really do with redoing those models and splitting them up. That makes sense. Yeah, they really could. I don't know if GSC is worthy of those efforts in GW's eyes. Is it worth redoing a sprue? I don't know. One thing I've said I'd like to see for Genestealer cults for a while now is an industrial walker / mech that has been repurposed. Would make a great addition. Yeah, I suppose you can kind of get that with Brood Brothers and Scout Sentinels and all that stuff. Brood Brothers are still a thing, right? That's not legended away? I would hope not. But I can see it happening. Yep, this guy is still drying. I think I'll just worsen the effect if I try and wipe it away. Got some heavy pooling, not heavy pooling, but the recesses where pooling would occur is holding things down a little bit. Oh yeah, Brood Brothers is detachment locked. Oh, that's so gross. See, like you don't have, like you're limiting player expression in a hobby that is labor intensive. It's so incongruent. It just does. It seems like so obviously the wrong choice. Like you don't take away the player expression because that's kind of a big part of the reward of the hobby. And the hobby, by its nature, is, you know, kind of work. You know, like yeah, you do it as a pastime, but you know, when you have to sit down and do an army of building and painting, like it's a labor of love, right? Crazy to me. Terrible. And like the 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 thing that makes me like a bit bitter or disenfranchised by the whole climate is the problems that are made serve as the justification for restarting the edition again. Like, oh, we're gonna redo it bigger and better than ever before, right? Like, oh, here we go again. Okay, well, I guess maybe we'll wait and see. Cross my fingers, right? So it's a wicked problem because then also if they do a bang up job and you're like, holy shit, this is amazing. What happens next edition? They have to change it. They can't keep it the same. Both from a conspiratorial selling of product point of view, but also from a novelty point of view. Right? Like what's the hook of the new codex if it's the same as the last codex? Super depressing. Anyways. Armite says, I don't mean to spoil. I thought for some reason you had read all the novels in the Dawn of Fire series. It's a mid-series overall, but has some high points. I'm much more excited for the new Call book. No worries on the spoiling there, Armite. I'm not, like, very much invested in the series necessarily. Like, I'm more curious than anything, and I totally agree with what you're saying. It's pretty mid with some high points. Right? There are a couple low points as well, such as the Wolf Time. But on the whole, even in the Wolf Time, there are some redeeming story beats and characters. Good interactions I thought were fun. You're much more excited for the new Call book. Well, I'm not sure what book that is. I guess it's a one-off, but yeah, I'm a little hesitant with Black Library. You know, I hope it's good. Just like with everything, you hope it's good, but who's the author? That's the question. Dang, this guy's foot is never gonna dry. You know, I don't hate where we ended up, though. In Generation 1 contrast is much worse, but you know, you got some interesting tonal variety showing through from the sponging, and you got some weird pooling where you wouldn't want pooling. That might be a user error, though. But with a heavy-ish dry brush, followed by a lighter one with just white or a very pale blue, I think his armor will look pretty spiffy with this variation. Misfit says, I've been looking at the final date attachment and thinking of kit bashing counts as models for the Vanguard NIDs. I have them all, and have them all GSC mechs and such. See, that would be a very cool thematic list build, right? And a huge hobby flex. It's just one of those things that it's such a labor of love, and it's so... There's so much effort for such an awesome concept. So I don't mean to discourage it. But I feel like those sorts of detachments may not be respected going forward. I don't know. Like I could look. Anything's possible. I could be wrong, and GW would carry all of those through into further editions and reward the hobby efforts of people, which they should, right? For clarity. But I feel like if I don't know, if my opponent did an amazing hobby project for an army on a previous edition and they wanted to run something that was no longer supported, I would say let's do it. Let's go nuts. Like this is so awesome. I don't even care if the data sheets are from last edition or whatever. The points are a bit imperfect or whatever. I think it's like so paramount that the hobby efforts of a hobby are respected. Call me crazy, guys. Oh man, what a wild concept. Somebody call GW and let them know. I think we're nearly ready. You know what, I'm just going to start dry brushing. It is a test model, right? I think it's dry enough. It's okay if it's a little bungled. So get some of this heavy blue game color and mix in some white scar. Oh, this is, we need more white. I guess I should move my palette. It's too bad I don't have a multi-camera setup, like a palette view. Well, I don't feel like I'm doing anything that complex. Yeah, see, there's the blue. Out of focus, of course. Well, I mix in a bit of white. Yeah, so that's kind of... Yeah, somewhere around there is what I want. That's what I want. And then I'll use that lower end for the more subtle edge highlight, and I'll use the middle for the heavier dry brush. That's the plan. We'll see. Let the great experiment begin. Big fan of the circular dry brush. I think it's like the ultimate coverage. Catches all your edges. You know what? I want the chest to be a bit brighter. I'm gonna get some more paint, refresh the dry brush a little bit. Wait, where are we? Oh, the camera zoomed in so much like this. It's a little hard to stay in frame. Look, the dry brush is working. It's helping to unify all that variation a little bit. Is what I like to see. And to brighten it up a little bit too. Because that contrast was a bit darker than I was expecting. I plan to do an ice field base for these guys, so I do want them to be fairly bright. Those brushes are great for stippling. That is true. Good for your weathering. Well, and for even just stippling values regardless, I guess. Nelson says, at What the 40K, what is your main project at the moment? I've been out for quite some time, and last I remember, you were finishing the Space Marine team with the main chapters. Yeah, so that project finished for a little local convention that I made a little game mode for, which was pretty fun and well received by everyone who participated. So I'd call it a win. I shared that, I guess, game design in that video I made, the extermination mode video. The main project at the moment, I guess, is this little Space Wolf starter army, which I'm really doing in collaboration with my local gaming store and with Greytide Studios. Though I am waiting on those bits from my 3D printer buddy. So I'm hoping for a December release on the video series for this little Space Wolf starter army project. It'll include a combat patrol, where this guy's from, and Artel's Space Wolf stuff they sent me. So it's kind of like a three-way collaboration, I guess. Personal projects I'm working on. I have another Artel model here. This Freeran Wayseer, which I think is shaping up super well if you're a fan of the anime. It's like a very familiar looking character. But yeah, it's a really nice model. They sent it to me, so I'm painting that on the side. I think it's shaping up well. Like the face, if it'll focus, is pretty good. Pretty good. And I have those Crimson Fists, and I have a couple of Word Bearers units I'd like to do, or I'd like to finish. I have a Plasma team I want to do for the Word Bearers. I have some Possessed I need to finish, one which includes a banner. It's a pretty good looking banner freehand, if I do say so myself. I shared a post on the channel here, sharing it. And I think there's a unit of Havocs I want to do for the Word Bearers as well. Because I like the idea of Havocs having demonified heavy weapons. I think that'd be like what I would expect from the Word Bearers. You know, kind of like how the Demon Engines are all demon infused. I think the Havocs machine spirit, the weapons of those machine spirits should also be all full of demonic essence. And that would be like a very cool thematic flex, I think. So this is the second pass dry brush I was telling you guys about. Just using that much paler blue from that blend on the palette. And it's looking pretty appropriate for the Space Wolves, I think. Pretty close to powder blue in some areas. And kind of grungy in others, which is, I guess, the nature of the contrast I'm using. I wonder, oh shit, that's way too happy. That's gonna be a super bright spot. Oh well, look. That is what it is. It's supposed to be kind of reserved and controlled with this application. I mean, The top, because the lighting is supposed to come from the top, we can be a bit more aggressive on the top-facing panels. That seems reasonable to me. Yeah, I did a short, what other projects have I done lately? I guess a small commission for a Dark Angels army. It's like just to a battle standard. Nothing crazy. Just to get the model table, just to get a couple units table ready, but a bit better than battle ready, because GW's battle ready is pretty basic. Right? Which, I mean, it's fine. It's inoffensive. I would never shame someone who's done battle ready work. But the client sort of wanted the client. It sounds so funny. Yeah, the client wanted something a bit nicer than just battle ready. Okay, that is Space Wolves power armor, I guess. Definitely a bit white over here and there. Can I balance that out a little bit? I wonder if this recipe would just be better if I diluted with Generation 2 contrast, if I just diluted a little bit with contrast medium, just so it's a little softer. But I don't hate the workflow. I think it's batch worthy for that battle standard I was telling you guys about. Right, and then you just kind of address the dark spots with a bit of a heavier dry brush. This seems alright. It's Wolfen time. Look at that. Nelson Cruz says, oh, I read that one. Margaret Wood says, hey, Kiefer. Hope you're well, mate. Ah, thank you. Hope everything is well with everybody in chat. And you as well, Margaret. Yeah, everything is pretty chill. Ramping up to the holiday season. I'm trying. I was supposed to get this Space Wolves video series done for end of November. And here we are. So that's not going to happen. Unfortunately, the way I plan to structure it is that I won't be able to piecemeal it. I kind of have to finish the project in its totality and then edit things together, unfortunately. So it'll be a December project. Kind of a winter theme for the Space Wolves, which isn't terrible. Perhaps a bit festive. No Santa sleigh, though. No Space Wolves chapter master on Santa sleigh, sadly. I'm just cleaning my dry brush here with that hobby soap, or brush soap. Nelson Cruz says, oh man, that anime mini looks like a legit display piece. Oh, you flatter me, Nelson. I remember seeing that Word Bearer banner on Instagram. Showed it to a friend, and he didn't believe it was freehand. Yeah, look, sometimes I was very pleased with it as well. It's like lightning in a bottle a little bit. See, now the trepidation with that banner, I don't have it on hand to show, but now the challenge is to do the text without ruining the freehand. And that was the same process I had for the Firekeepers chapter ancient. I was like, oh god, did the freehand, now I gotta not screw it up. Freehanding text is all. I'd say freehanding text is harder than painting something to look like a figure. It's like typography is a skill in its own. Paz says, hey man, just want to say I love your Cantor build. Honestly, it's gonna be very close to the GW updated one whenever they release it. How's it going, Paz? Thanks for dropping by. Yeah, I was really happy with the Cantor build as well. Turned out basically how I envisioned it, which is always like the best part of a conversion project, right? Sometimes you create a monster and have to never let it see the light of day, but that one turned out. And I think, yeah, GWs would probably look eerily similar. I think that's the sort of pose you do for Pedro Cantor, right? Majestically standing over a dead orc, shooting his relic Stormbolter. I would honestly love for it to be like the exact same. It'd be so funny to me. Maybe I'll make a... That video just did not do too well. And so, if GW does end up with a very similar looking Pedro Cantor, it might just be some content to mine. I try not to do content that way, but it does behoove the channel. Unfortunately. Fortunately, but unfortunately. Okay, so where do we go from here? I guess I can start in some soft seals, break up the... You know what? I'm just going to pull up Space Wolves Heraldry on a tab here. Space Wolves Heraldry. It's like my favorite part of the codexes are these heraldry pages. I'll see if I can tab over here. I feel like every time I add a source for this... Okay, there it is. Space Wolves Heraldry. Yeah, so basically, guys, we're looking at this. Oh, Reddit, of course. Okay. Yeah, these pages. I just adore this kind of shit in the codexes. It's like, I would buy codexes again if they just didn't have data sheets and it was just awesome lore updates per edition and how to paint them and the heavy metal team's photography. The photography of their work and cool diorama style compositions. Just the coolest. Alright, so this is a blood claw, which means yellow and red markings on that shoulder pad. Which makes sense. What's up with the knee pad, though? What's up with the knee pad? Wolfen have these knee pad markings. Intercessor from the Greymane's company, or the Blackmane's great company, with red and black pack markings. I guess it just correlates to these. So maybe you can code the knee pad with the shoulder pad on the right side. Kind of cool. The Space Wolves have a great aesthetic. As much as I dump on them, they look awesome. Yeah, Paz agrees. Paz knows what's up. Okay. That's enough of that for you guys. We'll go in with Vallejo Black and just hit some soft seals. And to apply that black paint, I'll be using the... Well, you know what? I'll bust out the golden maple stuff. They've sent me more stuff that I'm supposed to make videos for. I've been busy. I will. If you're listening, Golden Maple, I will make those videos, those YouTube shorts. Yeah, so I'll use one of their brushes they sent me. I put a bunch of hours into this brush, this sable hair, and it's finally beginning to lose its precision, but it's lasted about as long as I am accustomed to for sable hair brushes, which is what I said in the original video. You know what? Actually, I'll show you guys the even smaller size. Even smaller. Even more. Yeah, here's the 00 007. No, it's just 00. And it's fairly pointy. I barely used this one. I actually have discount codes for Golden Maple. It should be in the description of the stream if anyone is interested. I really should do something in OBS to create like a lower third, like they have on the news, on your local news, right? One of these things, they just have the discount codes for Artel and Golden Maple for my affiliates, my affiliate linkages. Yeah, look at that. Now we're breaking up that armor. Now we're getting some readability. Hey, chat, where do you guys land on Space Marine belts? Do you prefer to paint them armor color, or do you paint them in your leather color? Like your pouch color? Because I've seen it done both ways, and I lean more towards the leather color, if I'm honest. I think it breaks up the model nicely, but how do you guys paint the belts, referring to this section right here? Misfit says leather, Paz says leather. Yeah, okay. Same. I like how you guys think. Yeah, it just breaks up the armor nicely. And it's a bit more visual interest, more often than not, I think. Though for the Space Wolf, I'll probably do brown leathers. I think that'll look good. A warm leather color, rather than a neutral like black, to go against that cool blue armor. I think that is smart color theory. Oh, a bit thin on the paint there. It's not terrible. I mean, we did all the dry brush work. I suppose it could be leveraged with contrast, black contrast instead. Then you might preserve more of that dry brushing I did. That's something to consider. But then I'll have to mix it down. I find Black Templar contrast is so strong. Like, that shit is from concentrate. I think you should always probably mix it down. Maybe it's designed to go over a white undercoat. Like a pure white primer or something. Probably shouldn't fuss too much, because this is supposed to be like a simple battle standard or test model, but now I'm getting to the weeds. This is why I take a long time to paint. There's something satisfying about it, guys. I don't know if you agree. Okay, is that all the soft seals? Ah, the top of the knee, okay. Yeah, I can live with that. Nelson Cruz says leather for the belt never goes wrong. I think so, especially on Phobos. It looks, the Phobos armor looks really good when you paint it like brown leather. And they got that like quad belt situation going on. Okay, let's do some skin. Let's paint the skin. Put the paint upon his skin. I don't have amazing amounts of skin paints. What do I have here? Cadian Flesh Tone. I have 2 of the same. Amazing. I don't know how that happened. They're multiplying. Yeah, I'm gonna start painting inside to outside. So yeah, we'll do the skin. Is my camera borked? Or is that just like beyond a focusable threshold? There we go, look at this. I have the power. I thought I should be using the bigger brush for this, but I was wrong. Yeah, I think Reavers are great, and my hot, spicy prediction for 11th edition, guys, is that Reavers are going to be super good. That's my hot and spicy prediction. I think they've spent enough editions being not desirable that it's going to be like the preeminent unit you'll see in every list. Like, oh, do you have your 3 units of Reavers in your list? Yeah, I do, bro. I'm good. They'll have some crazy ability like, this unit is lone operative within 6 inches and can't be overwatched. And then everyone's going to want them. Suppressors too. I think suppressors are going to be like, oh my god, everyone. Suppressors are so good now. Suppressors will overwatch on ballistic skill. And everyone will be like, for free. They'll do it for free and on ballistic skill. So you're definitely going to want your suppressors. What other units are stupid right now that would be busted? It's always fun to think about that. Yeah, we're gonna need 2 coats of that flesh tone. You know what? Maybe not. Maybe I'm being a dork about this. Maybe, like, why am I trying to make this perfect paint job? We're trying to make him grungy and battle ready, right? Battle standard. So let's just work with the imperfections and get some free variation out of that. Once it dries, I'm just going to go in with the wash Reikland Flesh Shade, and we'll try to not pool too heavily. And I want to work with it while it's wet for Kislev Flesh. That way we get a bit of a dynamic shift. I find it to be pretty dynamic anyways. Nelson Cruz says, I got a set of brushes from Golden Maple a while ago, although I was only able to paint half of a Krieg mount. I really liked it. Oh, I'm happy to hear that, Nelson. Cadia mentioned. Everyone quick, boo this guy. Just kidding. Love Cadians or something like that. My guard friends make me say the last part. I am kind of indifferent to Cadia. I like Krieg more. I think what should have happened, honestly, and I want to make a video about this, or I'll probably pitch it to the Grimdark Therapy Boys for one of our episodes. But I'm very compelled by the idea that when Cadia breaks, GW stops making Cadian product and uses Krieg to become the poster boys of the Imperial Guard. I think Krieg are a better thematic exemplar of the grim darkness of the far future. And I think if GW really wanted to advance, to push the needle with 8th edition and ripping the galaxy in half, and I think their words were minutes before midnight, right? If they really wanted to do that, I think Krieg just better serve that vibe. There's actually a whole bunch of like touchstones like that for GW's decisions post 8th edition, where I'm like, well, if you wanted to make it minutes before midnight, you should do this, you should do this, you shouldn't have done Ball the way you did, you should have done it like this, right? I think there's a compelling video in there, almost like a what if lore, a what if style lore video. Because I think at almost every turn, the choices, the narrative choices from 8th edition onwards have been counter to what you would want if you wanted to make things minutes before midnight. Steel Legion? Yeah, Steel Legion's pretty base, Paz. I like them. I think Krieg are better for the grim dark energy, but I do like Steel Legion as well. Very similar aesthetics between Krieg and Steel Legion. But the whole martyrdom shtick feels very appropriate for the Imperial cult and Grist for the Mill and that whole theme that applies to all guard regiments, but I think it's best exemplified by Krieg. I think Cadia, while classic, is very much a pull from Starship Troopers, and I wouldn't say like you can't use them. I would really want the rules to be written so you could play your guardsmen as whatever regiment you'd want. I hate how GW's writing the rules for guardsmen or for the different regiments. It's so stupid. It again speaks to what I was mentioning in the beginning of the stream. It's like they're taking away the sandbox for you to make choices for your regiments. And now if you play Catachan, your whole army's themed Catachan, but only these guys over here are really Catachan because they have the data sheet that says they're Catachan, rather than the subfaction regimental choice that would just define them all as Catachan. And then it's just your hobby expression to make them look Catachan. What a waste. What a waste. Let's see here. Yeah, I wanted to do a video this week, guys, for a rework on Oaths of Moment, but I don't think it's going to come together. I need to do these Space Wolves for December, so I'm probably going to stream a bit more, unfortunately, and save that rework of Oaths of Moment video. Critique / rework. I also think it's late enough into an edition now that such a video would be much more receptive than it would be at the start of an edition. You know, I feel, and it's been pretty like self-evident in the channel itself that all the critique videos that I do on the channel do better later into an edition than earlier. At the start of an edition, everybody wants to like smell the farts. You know what I mean? They want to be like, oh, it's so sick. The new edition's so exciting. Where's my camera tool? Okay, why isn't this working? Is that as good as I can get? It's kind of sad. There we go. Okay. So we're just gonna try and layer up, create some variation. I mean, if you're a really cool guy, you could do some freehand on these heads. Give them some cool face tattoos. That'd be dope. Like, get a load of this guy. I got a face tattoo. So, like, I'll take that effort on my Stormcast, because I'm kind of doing the same thing with them, all unhelmeted. But because this is not necessarily for me, I'm not going to go that hard on the face painting. Just needs to be serviceable. Also, with my Stormcast, I'm painting weird hair colors, so it's kind of like Fire Emblem. Kind of like a bunch of Fire Emblem characters. But more, I don't know. I guess more comic book than anime looking. They're all, like, thick people. I feel like the autofocus is just being super lazy to work. Like, you go manual, you go back to autofocus, and it doesn't make a difference. Like, is it really autofocus if I have to keep clicking on my model to get it to focus? I'm just gonna take the black paint and just I'm just gonna put black in his eye holes, and then we'll see. We'll see if that is sufficient. Pat says, yeah, guard is all just everything together, so lame. Yeah, not the most satisfying in my opinion. Like, imagine if they did that with any other faction. You're just devaluing, like, the flex of regiments. Like, it feels so... It's just gross to me. You do it with any other faction, I think people, like, get up in arms. Like, I think it behooves all factions if they're all treated with reverence. Right? Like, right now, only Space Marines really flex their sub-factions because, you know, Salamanders have 2 named characters, so they get to flex that. But even still, like, Ulthwé, Eldar, not being able to flex their identity through Eldrad Ulthran just devalues the Eldar sub-faction landscape relative to Space Marines. Like, it should not be that way. Like, it really should only be Tyranids that's just sharing epic heroes. I mean, you'll have the odd named hero, I guess, who is, you know, like a vagabond type character who will just go from sub-faction to sub-faction. A wanderer, a Ronin type, you know. Yeah. Yep. where's the white scar? I'm gonna try and paint a little bit of white dots on the corner of his eye to see if that just adds instant readability or not. I might be ruining it. He might be ruined. I think I ruined it. I think it was better before. It was just dark. So now I'm just using this guy as an experiment for face painting. Actually, you know what? I think I might be onto something, guys. Let's just focus. Let's just focus. See, I think I might be onto something with this. Putting dots in the corner? That might be the way. Right? I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. I think that looks pretty good. I think I just unlocked a cheat code. New skill, new perk unlocked. Right there. Look, that wasn't that hard, right? You guys saw it in real time. You gotta give him an eyebrow. I find a lot of people don't paint eyebrows, but I like giving my models big bushy eyebrows. Big bushy eyebrows. That way you know. I kind of just screwed up everything with that, though. So I have to go back. We have to fix that up. Yeah, the angle. It just rose too quickly. But yeah, I generally like a pretty strong defined eyebrow just for like, you know, these are miniatures, so they're super far away generally. You're not usually looking at them up close. So I think exaggerating certain things like the eyebrows helps. I mean, there is an angle that you can make here for transhumanism where it's like, well, he looks even more uncanny without eyebrows. So I get that. I think it's a preference thing. Because that can look pretty tasteful. Like break up that line. But yeah, this guy's gonna have big bushy eyebrows. He's a wolf man, you know? He's got that wolf gene seed. He's gonna be furry. He's gonna be fuzzy. Nelson says semi-autofocus. That's really what it should be. I'm realizing I've never seen a mini with eyebrows and that I've never realized it. I mean, often, yeah. Often you don't see people painting eyebrows. And to me it's weird. But for the Space Marine angle, I can get the transhuman side of it. It's like they're all giant hairless apes kind of thing. Like, you know, I can kind of see that's like unnerving as an aesthetic. But on female characters, I find it super weird when there's no eyebrows. Okay, let's put some yellow on that shoulder pad. Now, I know the real cool thing to do is to use contrast, like glaze. You paint purple and white, and you glaze yellow, but I feel like that's extra steps. Or maybe we should try it out. I don't know. I don't really have contrast yellow. I have a yellow ink. I have this. Liquitex ink, which I use in lieu of yellow contrast. And it usually serves the purpose well enough. Here's what I'll do. I'm going to take a softer purple. Gonna mix in some white, and we'll glaze yellow. I'm gonna try it out. Today is a day of experiments. So far, we're 2 for 2. The armor and his eye. So let's do a third one. So this is Light Violet from Voyo. This is the color I use with High Fleet Gengar. Oh, 7:30. Coming up on the 2-hour mark, guys. And it snuck up on me. Look, time flies when you have good company. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I'll wrap up the stream after this shoulder pad. We'll be here for a bit more. Oh, look at this. The shoulder pad there's no space here, and so the contrast sat in there in a real ugly way, which is unfortunate. So you guys can learn from my mistakes. Heed my warning. Be mindful of that. That's a terrible error. I generally hate when that sort of thing happens with washes or glazes. Pour one out for his backpack, which is now welded. It's now welded to his shoulder pad. He's stuck in this pose forever. Maybe if you're doing a Plague Marine, that's like a cool look. He will be of the Purple Claw, Space Wolves successor chapter. Now only kid. Thoughts on the end of edition stuff? Like what will it be about, or what will happen in terms of lore and new minis? Okay, that's a good question. Excellent question, Nelson. I think all those characters we've seen will be featured in the 500 Worlds books. I think the Tidus book will just set the standard that we'll see 2 characters or 2 factions per book. At least 2. Right, so it's kind of in a template like Psychic Awakening, which was 2, sometimes 3, and then like 4 at the end per faction. But look, Arcs of Omen didn't cover every faction, so maybe that's not the best precedent to follow. I think I'm hoping there's a 500 Worlds Karandras book, because that was a prediction I had, that Karandras will just be held back. Obviously, in the design pipeline, you would build your Karandras resculpt with your Scorpions resculpt, and they intentionally held that. They intentionally withheld it, and I'm thinking it's for the end of edition. Oh, see everybody, Karandras this whole time was on a very important mission. He was hunting a Tyranid Prime with Lash Whip, TM. That's what he was doing. It's very important business. I'm being mean, but you know, something like that. He'll be doing something, I'm hoping. You gotta have interesting characters in these campaign books. Like, the whole idea is that you're driving a plot forward, which is... I can't help but roll my eyes because I think about the Lion and Arcs of Omen and how he's, like, done woefully inadequate amounts of action and impact on the story. Yeah, so I'm hoping for Karandras end of edition. I imagine the Tyranid Prime will be part of that release. I figure the twins, the Tau twins, and the Not Gotrek will be from the 500 Worlds campaign books. Right, like they said in the preview that these are models for next year. And GW generally only releases models with publications. There are exceptions, but given that they just started a campaign to end the edition as they do, it seems to be the logical dots to connect. Okay. So I've mixed in some white to that violet, and hopefully when I add that yellow glaze, this looks amazing. But look, layering with white is always like a terrible idea. I should have got a sponge. Well, if I did a sponge, then I'd probably nick the trim of the shoulder pad. Guess wet blending it is. Oh god. Swap Drama says, okay, I think my phone is working. Hooray, and welcome back. What would you say is the greatest basing scheme for Space Wolves? It's tough. They have a cold armor, broadly speaking, cold armor color scheme. You know, that cool blue-gray. So you'd think a warm color would look really good. I've seen dirt, like brown bases with snow in like a tundra type base that looks really good. I will be doing a frozen lake style base on these. I developed a quick and dirty method for it, which I think will be cool for a video. And so I think that'll serve a dark base for a generally bright armor scheme. This guy didn't turn out especially bright. He's a test model though, after all. But, you know, when you think of your typical Space Wolves and their bright armor, I think a frozen lake, a deep dark blue with subtle gradients, and then a little bit of snow drifts over top would look really good. For the best, maybe the tundra. I don't know. I've seen all sorts that look really good. I've seen lava Space Wolves that look really good. Volcanic-based Space Wolves that look really nice. Just that harsh clash of that lava base, that orange, and with a little bit of OSL even in some cases, against that blue armor looks really cool. But I guess you have to go with theme, so it's going to be something frozen. Has to be. It's gotta be. Let me get my battle cap. Let me get one of these battle caps for this glaze. We be glazing out here. Okay, we're gonna use this one. I'm just gonna get a little bit of yellow. We don't need too much. All I ask of GW is that Krieg Officer Mini. We have a Krieg Colonel as the main thing on the cover of 2 recent books. Please, a 2-order Officer Mini is all I ask. Fuck Lord Marshal Dreer. Yeah, I've heard my guard buddies much lament Lord Marshal Dreer. Which is awkward because he's terrible for a named character. But look, that only means he will be like the auto-include must-have guy in a future edition. Right, I think of monoliths. The new monolith came out in 9th edition. It was basically not worth ever taking. And then now, the monolith is super based and cool. And has rules it ought to have. Oh, look, we can add a Neurogaunts to that list. Neurogaunts will actually be really good in 11th edition. That's another prediction. Neurogaunts will be like everything I would want them to be. Well, look, over that soft purple, that's a pretty nice yellow. And that's with an ugly wet blend with white paint. So that's something. Got a nice yellow with good depth on the low end and nice bright values on the high end. I like that. Pretty cool. Oh shit, what about his knee pad? Oh, this guy doesn't have knee pads, so no problem. Perfect. Look. Thought it was a problem, turned out to be okay. They have some leather colors, and look, he's basically done. Though I don't know if we will finish him in today's stream, because I'm already on overtime here. There are things that need doing, guys. Other things. That yellow is fire, says Nelson. Hell yeah, dude. Thanks. Thanks for bigging it up. I think it looks great. I'm going to use some Rhinox. GW paint pots, man, I tell you. It's like, here's the one paint pot I have that doesn't glob itself up from closing. But now it like you can never win. It's on its way out. I'm slowly but surely gonna replace all of these with Vallejo paints. With maybe a few exceptions, because there are some colors from GW I really like. Okay, to toggle the semi-autofocus, there it is. Look, when you manually use the autofocus, it works great. Actually, I'm going to water that down a bit. I'm going to watch it just run everywhere and ruin everything. Oh boy. It's a risky angle here. Okay, well, I'm not going to get my brush in between that. So, and you can't really see it, so it's probably okay. It's like brown is just a perfect color for Space Wolves as a contrasting organic warm color. Give him a nice gold, a nice warm gold for his Lucky Charms. Space Wolves are big into Lucky Charms, guys. I don't know if you know. SWAT says, I couldn't learn videography to save my life, I think. Videography. Like the art of making videos? Or of like being a director? Is a director a videographer? Or is a videographer just a photographer, but for video? Someone who takes videos. I believe in you. If it's just someone who takes videos, I believe you can do it. Normally when I encounter a term I don't know, I just give it the good old search, but can't do that right now. You guys will have to educate me. A videographer. I mean, I feel like I've heard that term before, but like a camera operation. Oh yeah, like so if you gave me like a fancy video capturing device, I don't think I could use it. Well, I mean, I know how to use an SLR, so it's probably not that different. Nelson says, would you rather never using Vallejo Paint again, or never using Vallejo Paint ever again, but GW Paint pots go away, or all GW paints get good, but Vallejo starts using the same pot as GW? That's an evil would you rather, Nelson. I'll give you that. It's like right after I switch to all of them. I guess I just end up switching back. Honestly, that's what happens. Unfortunately, because the price point of Vallejo is like way better than GW paint pots. I'd choose the latter with regards to your would you rather, Nelson. I'd rather have GW paint pots get good, but Vallejo starts using lame paint pots. Oh, right, I forgot the other side of his belt. Who would have thought the belt wraps all the way around? Of course. Look at this monk, this like, he's like an Ogren, this guy. That's cool. He's a transhuman warrior from the far future, after all. Let's just clean up the hairline a bit, soften all that wash sitting there. Okay, last thing we're going to do today is add those red stripes to make him look like a real Space Wolf. Then we'll get a good before and after. What is up with this autofocus? Okay, that's better. Oh, he has like another wrist strap too. Dang it. Dang it. And here I thought the leathers were done. It's like, I suppose you should appreciate the accessories. Everyone was lamenting Primaris when they first came out. Oh, they're so bland. They're like Grit Crusade era Space Marines. No heraldry, no Lucky Charms. So now it feels awkward to begrudge said Lucky Charms. The man wants more GW style pots. What a psycho. I got to go, but hope it turns out good. See you next time. Yep, I agree with Nelson Cruz. See you next time, Shamari. I hesitate to commit, but odds are I will be streaming tomorrow. Odds are. Alright, where's that red paint? What do we want to use? Probably Evil Sun Scarlet. I can probably get away with this because it's just going over yellow. Jeez, this is on its way out too. Can't even shake it anymore. Okay, you make so you just make some spiky shapes. That's what you're supposed to do. And I guess we're going to find the middle, which is about here. And we'll just make some spikes. You know, in Space Wolves lore, they paint these on themselves. It's like their pack marking, I think, if memory serves. That was a tidbit I learned from the Wolf Time. And because they paint them on themselves, I am less fudged about imperfections. Maybe this was a bad red to use. It's not really flowing the way I was expecting. I believe these markings can basically be anything you want, as long as they're fairly consistent across the unit, across that particular group. So that's like a fun creative hobby opportunity for Space Wolf heraldry and squad designation and all that kind of stuff. I just kind of want to make it semi... Yeah, unfortunately, I bungled the freehand, but it is what it is. I imagine if you're doing a whole Space Wolves army, by the end of it, you'll be really good at painting these sorts of I don't know, tribal iconographies, I guess. I'm gonna grab some dirty yellow. See if we can clean that up a little bit. This is AK's Dirty Yellow, which is a color I really like, and it's a nice matte yellow also. Unfortunately, the Liquitex ink is a little shiny. I'm pretty sure I did a decent job of this on the chapter exemplars I did. I seems like trimmed off too much of that. Well, while that experiment for the yellow glaze was pretty good, it's mostly rendered obscured because of the red and because of the error fixing of the AK Dirty Yellow. Unfortunately. But now I know that the cool method does work with my Liquitex ink. That's a bit better. I'm trying to lean back and just evaluate how it's looking at distance. That seems about right. No, not perfect, but certainly evocative of what you'd expect for a Space Wolf. Alrighty, well look, half hour, pretty much a half hour more than I expected here. But 'twas fun. 'Twas fun. Let me catch up on chat. Damn, I work so slow that while you painted almost a full mini, I haven't even finished removing the mold lines and glue a single corpseman. Well, Nelson, it's not about getting it done as quick as possible. It's about enjoying your hobby. And it's better to work slow and not make errors than to work fast and then, jump the shark and clip off something you thought was a sprue and it's actually like a sword. But the good news is I'll probably stream again tomorrow. In any case, guys, there's how he's looking. Little turn around, little spin job there. And I guess we'll do the outro thing. Thanks to everyone who made it to the end of the stream. You guys are the real hobby heroes. Thanks to everyone who shared in the hobby camaraderie. And I think with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one.